This is a Hot Pie Media original.
Welcome to Overcome with Justin Wren. I've got a really incredibly special guest today. I think he's one of the most unique humans alive because he's one of the world's best psychiatrists. And I think he's one of the most innovative. Maybe one of the most compassionate, because that's what probably every psychiatrist needs, is helping people through depression, addiction, suicide, divorce, trauma, sexual abuse, all that different stuff. And Dr. Daniel Amen is a 12-time New York Times best-selling author. He also, I think, has 2 different TED Talks, speaks at like Google, Apple, all those different places. And he has a slew of incredible people that you might love and be a fan of out in LA that are his patients. I know Miley Cyrus is his patient, and she just celebrated 4 months sober with him, I think yesterday, when I was talking to him on the phone. And so congratulations to Miley. And I've been able to send some of my friends his way whenever they were in a time of need. One of the things about Dr. Amen is he's also my doctor. He helped me when I was going through a divorce and relapse and suicide attempt and all that different stuff. And I'm so grateful that I could be a patient of his. And he's helped me a lot. He's helped me a lot. And today, I don't know if I'd call it an emergency podcast or what, but it's definitely unique. It's unique because I'm letting you guys in on a therapy session. A therapy session because in just a couple of days, I'm headed to drug rehabilitation treatment for my second time. And I went in 2020 during COVID, May 15th through August 15th. And I think I really wanted to attack what's been attacking me. But I think in that process was attacking myself, not just the addict in me, but it was almost like a punishment. And so anyways, I'm going back with a new perspective because I had a setback. And I really want this setback to be a setup for even a stronger comeback. And to do that, I needed to ask for help. And that's one of the things that Dr. Amen talks about in this podcast is, what would you say to someone that is wanting help? And that it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, asking for help. So that's what I was doing today, was asking Dr. Amen for help and giving you guys an inside look at me getting help myself. Because the place that I'm going to, the treatment center, one of the foundations that really caught my eye was that they want to help the addict or the person struggling so that that person can go out and help others. So I think this is really in alignment with myself and who I want to be. And I want to help myself so I can continue to help others and hopefully at a whole new level. But I got to help myself at a level that I've never done before. And I got to want it, and I got to do it, and I got to actually put in the work and the effort. And so thank you, Dr. Amen, for a lot of the different things you said. He's starting a treatment center in Dallas, Fort Worth. He's got the Amen clinics, 2 out in LA, 1 in Dallas, Atlanta, New York. And if you're needing help, I would say that his team, wherever you go, if you can't get in with him, you will get in with some of the most compassionate doctors. I spent 3 full days with their teams and with Dr. Amen. And it's a truly special place. They are not doctors or psychiatrists throwing meds at you that are really like darts and hoping to hit a bullseye in the dark, because they look at the organ they're treating. They look at your brain. Just like a cardiologist needs to look at your heart, a psychiatrist, most 90% or more, I think, is what Dr. Amen told me, was like, we're still treating people, diagnosing depression the same way we did with Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's a long time ago. And so there's been a lot of advancements, and Dr. Amen's been part of leading the way. So I would actually encourage you, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, you can continue to do that. But whenever Dr. Amen goes through some slides, he goes through his kind of new 12-step process, And all he's trying to do is bring in the brain science to back up the 12-step program in recovery. So it's a little bit of a new spin on it. And he goes through some diagrams. And I think it would be really helpful if you tuned in on YouTube to see him, walking me through this. A doctor walking his patient through it. I think it's going to be more helpful if you can get that visual too, or listen twice. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in to Overcome with Justin Wren today. If I could say anything about the episode, I might have flubbed a little bit on kind of the dates, the time, the history. There's some nerves with the camera being on. And more than that, I think I'm still just kind of in a fog. I went hard in the paint, full court press with marijuana and alcohol. And I think that my brain is just a little foggy, but I've really had a couple of really great days and made this decision that this is what I need and this is what I'm going to go do. And so, anyways, I hope this is helpful. If you have someone struggling with addiction, depression, please send this to them. If it's you, I really hope, pray, and believe that this is going to help you today. So be encouraged. And anyways, thank you so much for taking time to tune in to this inside look at my own therapy session before I go to treatment, before I go get some recovery in. All right. Thanks so much. And here's Dr. Daniel Amen. Dr. Amen, thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be a therapy session. So obviously that's your expertise. So I'll let you run that side. But one thing that I'm really, really grateful for is that when I called you and reached out, I'm a patient of yours. You're an incredible doctor. I'm going to have an intro for you. And I'm just so grateful that I've been under your care. And also I wanted to open this up and try to be as transparent and real and open and honest as I possibly can with you, maybe most of all with myself, but also with the listeners of this show, Overcome. And I'm really grateful for our time together. And I'm looking at this as an opportunity. This will be the reason we're having this meeting today is I'm going back to treatment in just a few days, drug rehabilitation treatment. I've had a setback and it was scary, but I also want to get ahead of it because it wasn't as dark as maybe in the past, but it was real dark also at the same time. And so, yeah, I hope that I know it's going to help me, but I'm really hoping as well as we include others in this, that if there's someone in my position that's going through a relapse or addiction and they've never sought help, that they can ask for help, or if there's someone listening that has a family member, a friend that is going through it, that this can be a resource for them, or even an employer, anyone else. Like, I think there's a lot of addicts out there and a lot of mental illness, and that's your expertise. And that's why you're a 12-time New York Times bestseller, and you have your TED Talks, and you've had so many patients. And I wanted to thank you for being my doctor, but also for being such a great friend, because whenever I was in a time of need, or a couple different times, you've always been there. And for some of my friends, you've been there. And from a guest of this show to a person I've been on their show to a world champion athlete and friend of mine, it's just been really great that you've always been there for people, and that there's people like you out there with the expertise and that you're leading the way. So anyways, I guess we can just jump right into this. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Well, you're welcome. And getting well is never a straight line. It's up and then it's down, and then you learn, and then as long as you could always stay curious about what's happening with you rather than be furious, people just tend to get better over time. And so that's our job today, is to understand what happened and then see if we can identify some triggers to protect so it doesn't happen again. So tell me what happened.
Well, I think what you said there, this is I had a big relapse, and it was, I think I let my guard down, and I tend to try to love others really well. And then I'm pretty poor at loving myself. And so I just let my guard down and thought I could, have a joint. And so I had, some marijuana, and then from there it just spun out. Other people, I guess, tend to be able to handle it well. I mean, I know you're in the business of, you've seen the opposite side, the side that I'm in, but other people can that are around me. And I just know now that I can't because that spirals me out into other things. And so this big relapse was drinking and marijuana, which I'm so glad that I didn't go into the deeper, darker stuff from my past of like Oxycontin and really using anything. When people in recovery talk about what's your drug of choice, I've never really had a straight answer to that. It used to be Oxycontin for sure after a surgery, and I got hooked on that. But this time, it was weed and alcohol, but it's always been anything and everything. But the harder stuff really, really takes me out. This time I guess I just disappeared for a few days, and was just really off the grid. And
so walk me through before that. How long had you been sober?
Well, so let's see, May 15th of 2020 is whenever I went to treatment for the first time. I went to like a kind of a big book boot camp, kind of Scared Straight style treatment center. And it was good, but I was one of two guys to get through 90 days, and saw probably 30 guys leave in the 90 days. They're like jump the fence and try to walk like 14 miles to get away. I don't know that it was very therapeutic. And anyways, it gave me what I needed for a good 6 months. But I wasn't actively working a program of recovery after that. I think I almost thought, well, I got what I needed. And so I had a slip up. I've had several slip ups, but this last one really scared me to think about. So I got out of treatment August 15th of 2020. And then I would say that I relapsed hard around January 2021. There was a few days, got back kind of white knuckling it, then got in recovery again, found a new sponsor. I was good for a little bit. And then I had another. And then I would try to keep it close to my chest and try not to let, a lot of people know. And then this last time I just, I don't know. I had a night where just some things flared up, and I went and hung out with some friends that don't necessarily know that I'm in recovery, and I didn't state that up front. And whenever they were using, I decided to join them.
So since May of 2020, you have been sober except for a few days. Would that be accurate?
No, that's not accurate. I've had like 3 or 4 relapses. So
for how long?
Let's start with the first one, at least the first real hard one. So I had a slip up. I'm trying to think because I wish I would have taken some notes. August 15th, when I was out of there, I was sober for about six months after that. So towards January.
And you were sober from May.
Yes.
Until January.
I believe so. Yeah. If I'm getting all the dates right. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I just want sort of the big picture.
Right.
Because, I'm not a fan of positive thinking. I'm a fan of accurate thinking.
Yeah.
And so I want us to tell ourselves the truth about this. And you went 9 months during a pandemic, during a hard time. You decided this is not serving you. And that's actually the first step. I told you on the phone yesterday, I have a new 12-step program.
Yeah.
I wrote
excited about
I thought, a neuroscientist should take a crack at this.
Yeah.
Because the typical 12 steps, there's no neuroscience. And so typically step number 1 is realize you're out of control. I actually think that's step 2. step one is, well, what the heck do you want? What do you want in your relationships, in your work, in your money, in your physical, emotional, spiritual health? What do you want?
Yeah.
And does being high fit
No.
any of the goals you have for your life?
Yeah.
So step two is, okay, this isn't working because I'm not getting what I want. Right.
Yeah.
And I know you want good things. You want to make a difference. You want connection. You want to use your notoriety to be helpful for other people. Right. And so clearly we just have to say, okay, this doesn't fit.
Right. If I
and for 9 months, you did really great.
Yeah. But I would say that through getting help, and I think one of the things was I went to sober living for another 90 days after that. So 90 days in treatment, 90 days in sober living. And then when I got out of there, I got a sponsor and I was working with him a little bit, but then I didn't utilize, his help. I wasn't meeting with him. I wasn't going to a lot of those meetings. And then, not that meeting makers make it like they say, but it's more about, to answer step one for me, or your step one, I want to be a person that puts love and compassion in action. I want to fight for people. I want to, defend the weak, love the unloved, empower the voiceless. These are things I say through Fight for the Forgotten, but I truly want to fight for people. And I've come to the realization that I really have to fight for me in that process too, or first. And I want to love.
Well, you fight for people and fight for yourself better when you're sober or when you're not.
Yeah. Oh, only when I'm sober.
Only when.
Yeah,
sober.
only.
Okay.
Only when I'm sober, because when I'm not.
So you have to really see the drugs and the alcohol as the enemy.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And get rid of the little lies, like I can spend time with people who use, and I'm stronger than that, because that's a lie.
Yeah.
I think that's step 8 or 9, which is eliminate the users and the pushers in your life. And so often people don't want to do that early in sobriety because they're like, well, I won't have any friends. But you have lots of friends.
I have lots of friends that are honestly sober, that are sober and that are incredible. And even if they aren't, they kind of handle it. And I think in my friend group, for the most part, like I'm so blessed and encouraged with some of the best resources. I mean, to be able to call you and you be on here with me. I mean, I am more fortunate than probably most people that go through this disease, this addiction, and this illness. And so I want to utilize those resources, but at the same time, to go back to those relapses, it's weird because if I use with people, I'm okay for the time being, but right after it, that allergy that sets off, or that craving, or that whatever it is in my hunter-gatherer brain that all of a sudden prioritizes that substance as like number one thing for survival. Now all of a sudden I feel shame, guilt, all this other stuff because I know I'm not supposed to be doing it because it's not what I want. It's not who I want to be. So then I'll dip out, disappear, and hide in a hotel room and use for like 3, 4, 5 days straight. And the weird thing is that I know people do that with drinking, but I'll do that with marijuana, and I will turn marijuana into another addict's heroin. I mean, I can turn that thing into not remembering anything for a week. And just dropping all responsibilities.
Yeah, that's the lie around marijuana, that it's innocuous. And you're right. Some people can do it and it doesn't hurt them. Like some people can do alcohol. Some people can do cocaine. And, but you can't.
I can't.
And so,
it's weird because there's this like, I'll have months and I'll be doing well and I'll be doing good and everything will be great. And I'm wondering is it something like self-sabotage? Is it something that I don't feel like I'm good enough to deserve some of these good things that are in my life and doing the good things, that trying to help others. And then or is it just, there's this addiction that's the enemy, and then it sneaks up and surprise attack or sneak attack. And at first I would say I would say my partner, my significant other, Amy, she's really opened my eyes to saying, like, I went into treatment the first time probably with a very poor outlook on it, and that's why I'm loving getting to have this time with you, because I'm going back into it with a new outlook already. But the first time it was almost like I needed to punish myself to get this addiction out of me, go to treatment, go to sober living. And while I'm there, like, kind of try to beat it out of me, attack what's been attacking me. And me being a fighter or whatever, it's like, this is my opponent. I'm going to attack it. And recently I've started trying to love myself like my life depends on it, because it does. And so having both of those. And so going into treatment this time, I'm really looking forward to going deeper than just the addiction, but what's underlying. And then also looking at it as a true opportunity to live a life that I love. Because I looked at Amy the other day and I was like, what if I had 10 years sober? Like, what would life be like? And I started to smile, and it was after I was crying, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I honestly can't do this anymore.
Well, so many people do.
Yeah.
Right? So many people beat this thing. You just have to have a good plan.
Yeah. And then take action.
Can
on
I
it.
just quickly go through these 12 steps?
Sure. I'd love that.
So step one, know your goals.
There we go.
And I want you to spend some time with this exercise, the
Okay.
one-page miracle, one piece of paper, write down what you want. Relationships, work, money, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health.
Right.
What do you want? And then every day I want you to ask yourself, does it fit? Does my behavior fit the goals I have for my life? That's always step one. And if they don't, then, and this isn't what you should do or what you shouldn't do, it's what you want to do. And I know you're loving, you're purposeful, you get excited when you could help someone, when you're fighting for other people. I also want you to be excited for helping yourself, because that's the best way to help others, right? We're going to get to that in a second.
Yes,
Step two is knowing you've been taken hostage. And a lot of people get confused about when they're an addict. And my definition is, if your behavior gets you into trouble, relationships, work, money, physical health, or with the law, and your behavior has gotten you into trouble.
Yeah.
And then you do it again. It's like your brain is not learning. Your brain has been hijacked. So both you and I would agree that you're struggling with an addiction.
Absolutely.
And step three, let's see if I get this to go. Well, I want to show you this poster.
Sure.
Which brain do you want? So healthy scans surrounded by drug-affected scans. And you were a fighter. You have brain trouble. We know that, right? You came, you got scanned. We talked about it. I want you to have brain envy. I want you to love your brain.
Right.
And that's step three. You have to love your brain, and then you have to balance and repair it, because when your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain is troubled, you have trouble in your life. And these are the big risk factors for your brain to be in trouble. And T for toxin, you're poisoning yourself. Yeah. And marijuana is not innocuous. Alcohol is not a health food. And you've been an advocate for my work. And if you love your brain, you begin to see those things as the enemy.
Yeah.
Because they damage your brain, which means they damage the decisions you make. But 4 is you have to forgive yourself, because behavior is way more complicated than you just chose this. is there's genetic factors, there's emotional trauma factors, as you and I talked about. There are lots of bridges to addiction. And there's this great forgiveness method called REACH, where recall what happened, the relapse, give yourself some empathy. So why did it happen? We'll talk about that as soon as I get through these 12 steps. And then give yourself the gift of forgiveness altruistically.
Wow.
You're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart. Because giving is so good for your brain. And then you commit to it, you tell someone, and then you hold on to it. And then know your type. So I have your scan. You have an impulsive, compulsive addiction. So you're a combination of spontaneous and persistent. You remember you're cingulate, it worked way too hard, which means when you get a thought, you can't let it go. But there's some impulsivity in it as well. And so perhaps we need to look at what supplements or medicine that you're taking.
Right.
So here's a healthy set of scans. Impulsive, you had low frontal lobe activity from the trauma.
Right.
But you also had a hot cingulate. That's this white area here.
I remember I had
what
you called the diamond, like a ring of fire, maybe PTSD from some of the trauma and things.
So here's your scan. And you have this diamond, right, which is past trauma. But this is going to give you that if things don't go a certain way, you get upset and worry and being a little bit rigid. So nobody knows in the addiction community that there's really brain patterns and all addicts are different, right? They give everybody the same program, which is sort of like giving everybody the same treatment for chest pain, which is just sort of dumb.
Yeah.
Sensitive, and you have a bit of that, and cautious, you have a bit of that. And so we have to balance your brain. So getting another scan is probably not a bad idea.
Well, I'll do that right as I'm out of treatment. I'll come see you.
Yeah.
I'll go up to Dallas.
I think that's good.
Yes, sir.
And then 6 is we have to lock up the craving dragon. So this is where relapse happens. When I love this quote. The best way to reduce stress is to stop screwing up.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Overcome with Justin Wren. Onnit is sponsoring this show. Thank you so much. I actually just loaded back up on my Total Human. I got some of the krill oil. I got some of their, what did I just get? Some of the shaker bottles yesterday, some of the apparel. And I was so grateful to go in there at the gym, work out, and get my good stuff. Also, in this episode with Dr. Daniel Amen, he was talking all about supplements, nutrition, vitamin D and omega-3s and fatty acids. And that's what I just got with the krill oil and the Total Human. Onnit has some of the best products in the world with what Dr. Amen was specifically talking about in this episode. So you can take care of your brain and have a healthy brain and pursue a healthy life with Onnit products, taking care of your body and also taking care of your mind. One of the best ways I do that is through Alpha Brain. I love, love, love the way that I feel whenever I am taking Alpha Brain, and I take it pretty regularly. It's especially before every podcast, before every workout, 100% of the time. And I absolutely love it. I took it right now and I feel really great. And so you can save yourself 10% at onnit.com/overcome. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for their sponsorship of this show and their support of Fight for the Forgotten. And now we return to the show.
So relapse happens when you don't know your motivation. Relapse happens when you don't activate your frontal lobe. So I see you have tattoos. This would be a tattoo I would put on me. Then what?
Then what?
Whenever you do something, whenever you say something, go, well, if I do this, then what happens?
Yeah.
If I say this, then what happens? And relapse also happens when your blood sugar goes too low.
Oh.
So if you haven't eaten for like 6-7 hours because you're just busy, you're more likely to relapse.
Wow,
They
that's good to
actually
know.
did this cool study on married couples. They measured their blood sugar at the end of the day, and then they gave them voodoo dolls. And they asked them to express their feelings about their partner with the pins and the dolls. And the people who had the lowest blood sugar had more than twice the number of pins and the dolls.
Wow.
And Tana has this hangry thing going on. So, I just bring almonds with me everywhere, pumpkin seeds. And, I want you to never go more than 4 hours without at least a little something to eat that's healthy.
It's good to know because I do get hangry. I'm a heavyweight fighter, and whenever and I'm working out and things like that, and sometimes I'm so busy that I just don't eat, and then I can see it when Amy, my significant other, she'll say that whenever I'm tired, not getting enough sleep, or not drinking enough water, or not eating enough, that she notices that I'm just a little off. And and I think if, you get more sleep and eat better and take care of yourself and pray and meditate, all those things, like your life's just totally better. So that's a great point.
Well, in the addiction community, they often talk about HALT. Don't get too hungry. Don't get too angry. Don't get too lonely or tired. And that's just critical.
Yeah.
But there's a neuroscience behind that. If you're tired, it means you haven't gotten good sleep. If you haven't gotten good sleep, you have less blood flow to your frontal lobes, which means more likely you're going to make a bad decision.
Right.
And so prioritizing eating, sleeping, alcohol is just a disaster because it's going to drop your frontal lobes, which are already low. And then you're going to make an impulsive decision, and then you're going to hate yourself, and then you're going to spin on it. Healthy vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acid levels. So hopefully you're taking vitamin D and you're taking a good slug of fish oil every day. If not, we should look at your supplements. There are some trigger foods like wheat and dairy. I like my patients to go gluten and dairy free especially because you're addicted to OxyContin.
Yeah.
Very few people know this. Casein, the dairy protein, mixes with stomach acid and creates something called caseomorphins. And they work on the heroin center of your brain.
Wow.
That's not a good thing for you.
No.
Gluten mixes with stomach acid and create gluteomorphins, which again work on the heroin centers of your brain. And so gluten and dairy in vulnerable people can trigger relapse. And so, you're in a war for the health of your brain. A brain warrior is armed, they're prepared, and they work out, right? They work out emotionally and cognitively and physically. And of course, you want to surround yourself with like-minded.
Can I share something about the gluten real quick? Wheat. When I was with you, it was when I was I spent 3 days at Amen Clinics out there in LA with you, and we found out that I had celiac. And in fight camp, I would never, I would never eat wheat, and I try not to eat it any time. But I've actually noticed that the times that I've had wheat, and maybe I haven't ever watched dairy really. Sometimes I have, but whenever I do have wheat and I have a flare up and nauseous and stomach aches and diarrhea and things like that, joint aches, I've noticed I've actually relapsed after that. Or when I do relapse, almost as like a punishment, I've gone to wheat, knowing I'm not supposed to have it, and I'll have a loaf of bread or pasta or pizza or things like that while I'm in the active addiction moment. And so that's really great info for me. Wheat, dairy, all that. It's this holistic approach. I got to get that stuff out of my life.
You do. You have to see them as a weapon of mass destruction.
Wow.
And it's hard. It's a process.
Yeah.
Like when I figured out sugar is not my friend, my grandfather was a candy maker and I loved him. I was named after him. And over time, Rocky Road ice cream went from something I loved to something I loathe. And it's just got to get your brain around. I only want to love food that loves me back.
Mm.
And for you, especially with celiac, it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
That you love something that is just beating the heck out of you. And, becomes a therapy issue if you keep eating it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then be curious, not furious, right? So you're better than when I first saw you. But you've had some relapses. But clear, as I'm listening to you, you're better. You were really bad when I first saw you. You were really sad.
Yeah.
And you got better and then worse and then better and then worse. But even though you had a relapse, you're not here. You're sort of like here.
For those,
you're gonna, work to get better.
For those that are maybe not watching YouTube that might be listening in, what kind of chart would you call this? That's going up, down, but it's progressively getting higher. It's almost like a mountain.
Yeah, this is how people get better. Nobody just gets better. They get better and then they fall back and then they get better still and then they fall back and then they get better still. And I always want us to protect you from the fuck it moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate saying that, but that's the best way to describe it.
That is speaking the language of any addict. Whenever you use and that you go on that spree, like right before that spree, you have it once. Like I literally thought I was just going to have like 1 or 2 hits from a joint. And then all of a sudden my brain changed on me and it was like, fuck it, I'm out. And right. What's weird is right as it was starting to hit, all of a sudden fear hit. And then to get through that fear, I had more. And there was fear. And then all of a sudden there was anxiety. And then I had more. And then it was like I numbed all that out. And then it was like I went so hard in the paint or full court press or just full like blitz that I really tried to, I don't know. It was that fuck it for sure. And because I know that this is hard.
You from that.
Yeah. I know it's hard work to stay sober, and but it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
So worth it, and it's just see it as a process and a problem to solve rather than you're a bad person, because you're not a bad person. And then we talk about drip dopamine. Don't dump it. When you're using marijuana and alcohol, you're dumping dopamine, and you won't have anything left. And so just a little, I'm going to run through these quickly.
Sure.
Dopamine is involved in pleasure and euphoria, joy, reward, motivation, focus. That's why we jump when we get excited. But when it wears out, like when you go on a binge, depression, apathy, low energy, focus, sometimes even tremors. We know Robin Williams had Parkinson's and died with the dementia from Parkinson's, and may have been involved in the drug abuse that he had.
Right.
And the cycle of addiction is you do something that increases dopamine, alcohol, marijuana, shopping, gambling, pornography. You feel great. And then dopamine wears off and you feel awful. So you re-engage. And then pretty soon as you do this cycle, you wear out your pleasure centers. And you use not to feel high. You use to feel normal. And that sucks. And most addicts tell you they don't love it. They're not doing it for fun.
I honestly hate it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so to protect your pleasure centers, we have to limit low value dopamine activities, caffeine, nicotine, TV, video games, scary movies. And this is how people dump dopamine. So high intense activities, drugs, alcohol, pornography, and fame wears out the pleasure centers in your brain. I have so many young superstars, and no one tells them they're big side effects to fame, because they just don't feel normal. anymore. They don't feel normal, happy anymore. And then sugar. So the more you can kill sugar, the happier you'll be. And then so we want to rebuild your pleasure centers. This is true for all addicts. We have to rebuild your pleasure centers, vitamin D, exercise, massage, the right music, the right nutrients. All of these things can help. So think drip dopamine, don't dump it. When you're with Amy, there's probably lots of micro moments of happiness.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really learning how to pay attention to that and then avoid anything that's going to dump dopamine because you're hurting yourself. And so healthy ways. And you're so purposeful. I love you for that.
Thank you.
And that helps. It helps to drip dopamine consistently over time, even simple things like fish oil and pumpkin seeds and green tea. And you have to do this one. You have to eliminate the pushers and user dragons in your life because they make you vulnerable. And, how do we prevent heart disease? Well, we prevent all the risk factors of it, like hypertension and diabetes and obesity. How do you, prevent an addiction? You eliminate the pushers and the users in your life. And I don't have time to talk about this, but, make a list. Who are the accomplices who help you with your addiction? And who are your friends who help prevent you from it?
That's good.
And then
I'll be doing that on this during this treatment. I'll be making a list and just because there's some people that are really, really good-hearted people, but if I get around them and it's almost like it's enabling or it's just I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and this person is. I mean, they're really good here, there, everywhere else. And then I might end up falling back. Although I don't want to I got to own it and I got to be responsible and everything else. Like this is on me. It's not on them, but I need to.
Well, and it might steal your life. If you choose to allow them in your life, that is potentially a life-threatening decision because this addiction can kill you. It's really serious.
It is. I've almost died of it twice.
Killing the ants. We have to kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. Whenever you're sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. And then ask yourself whether or not it's true. This is so important.
This was one of the most powerful things I did with you in clinic was going through those automatic negative thoughts and asking, is it true? And then
is it true?
Yeah.
And these are some of the different kinds of ants we have. You have a lot of guilt-beating ants. You blame yourself. But there's also things like fortune-telling, where you're predicting the worst, or mind-reading, what people think about you. And generally, they love you. And then we kill the ants we question them. We shine a light on them, right? Remember, the goal is in positive thinking.
Right.
Positive thinking is
accurate.
I can have this joint and I'll be fine. No, that's a lie. It's accurate thinking. And then the little lies, like I don't want to deprive myself, or I can just have one, or I can control it.
Or one of the biggest ones, I can control it. It'll be different this time. I've learned, I've grown. I think that was the old me, and now I've grown and matured to where I can handle it now. I mean, it's just crazy thinking, not accurate.
It's crazy thinking. When you recognize it's a lie, then you just chuckle to yourself and go, "Well, that's stupid." Make amends if you hurt anybody in the relapse. And then do what actually we're doing today is give it away, right? You have to get the information about brain health. And then you have to teach someone else, because it's in the act of teaching you create your own support group, making it more likely you'll stay on it forever. So when you think of this, what is a trigger for you as far as your relapse and what you can do differently?
I think I'm my best self whenever when I'm living in purpose and in that why I'm here, what I want. And I think one of the questions I want to ask you is I know my why of existence, why I have air in my lungs, a beating heart in my chest. And after my second suicide attempt, I woke up and it was through oxy and cocaine and alcohol and marijuana. And I mean, a copious amount, like 3/4 of a bottle of tequila, 5 oxy 80s. So that's equivalent to 80 oxy 5 milligrams. And it's almost 3 prescription bottles. And when I woke up, it was like, shit, I'm still here. I'm alive. And when I actually was at an ocean and I went and got in the water and I was in Mexico and I went down there during COVID to not come back and got trapped down there, couldn't fly back to the US and just decided to end it. And whenever I woke back up, I was like so grateful. At first it was so much shame, but I got in the water and I felt the waves coming over me and it felt like waves of it was shamefulness coming over me. But when I connected to that breath and just said, like, thank you, I'm still here. Like, thank you for this breath in my lungs. Thank you, God, for this beating heart in my chest. I opened my eyes, and right when I did, it was like early in the morning and the sun broke right over the horizon. And I watched the most beautiful sunrise of my life. And it's just like, I felt like this little whisper, and whether it was me or God, it was like, you're not done yet. This isn't the legacy that you're going to leave as suicide. And so I got really excited when you said that 12, it's what you give away, like your brain health. And if I can take care of my brain, maybe I can help someone else take care of theirs. And for this relapse, most of them have always been accompanied by suicidal thoughts, or at least depression, heavy depression. And this one, I felt something rising up in me that this is different this time because I didn't have those suicidal thoughts. And like, I'm going to go do it for real this time at treatment. And first time was a punishment. This time's an opportunity. And so I'm really excited for this opportunity. And I really want to live differently, think differently, live differently, change my brain, change my life. Like, and yeah, I think this is just an opportunity for me to help get better. And that's honestly that step 12 that you just showed. That's what this podcast is. Overcome. It's you, Dr. Amen, me, we, whoever's listening to this have all, if you got breath in your lungs, you've overcome 100% of your darkest days. And now we get an opportunity to go out and share our light or shine our light or share our love with the world or somebody right in front of you. And so I think I'm just going to go take care of me for this next month or two. And then hopefully come back and share that whole story, the journey of treatment, what it looked like. I'm really excited. You're starting a treatment center in Dallas. It's going to help a lot of people, Dr. Amen. You already do that, and you're leaving an incredible legacy. So you're an inspiration to me. I guess a question I had in there is you said step 1 is what you want or why. You're maybe like knowing your why. What's that one thing, or what's your purpose? But I think a part of self-discovery for me is why. Why am I using? Like, what is it in my brain, or what is it in my past, or why? And can I cut that off? Can I cut that tie off from? I had the chairman on my board talk to me last night. I got with him, and he's an incredible man, also a physician, a surgeon, was with like the Patriots and I think the Yankees. And he's an incredible man. But he told me something about psychodrama, and I don't know if they'll do that at this treatment center or not. But he said that it was one of the greatest gifts in therapy he's had, where going back to that young inner child and I'll probably slaughter what he was saying, but basically now it's my role. I'm a 34-year-old man. It's like that young hurt child doesn't get to control me anymore. I get to protect it. I get to protect him. And whenever I see that impulsivity coming up, like you were sharing in my brain, I can be like, no, little guy, I love you. I'm going to take care of you. I want to help you, nurture you. What do you need? You need some fish oils. You don't need that dairy. You don't need that drug. And what you do need is some exercise. What you do need is to go help someone right now. What you do need is some therapy. What you do need is a walk outside, or some time in nature, or some meditation, or some good time with Amy. And so I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like after this relapse, it's just like, why am I doing this? And I mean, I guess it's just my brain, but and past traumas, and
it's all of it, right? It's your brain, but it's also your mind. It's also what's happening in your life. And I love what you said, is I have to do a better job of taking care of the hurt child rather than let the hurt child try to kill us. Yeah. Or let the hurt child have a tantrum. And you don't give in to tantrums with children, right? If you have a child and they throw a tantrum, I want what I want when I want it, and you give in to that, you're creating your own behavior disorder. Yeah. Right? If you do that with a child, I have 6, and if I just gave in to them every time they wanted, I'd create entitled, spoiled humans. It's like, no, being able to say no, but in a kind way. It's like, no, that's not going to work. And be okay with that. When you've been famous and you've been a fighter, there's this sense of, I could do anything, which is a prescription for disaster. It's like, okay, what do we want? What's the goal? And you are the CEO of your company, right? Of Justin Wren Enterprises. You're not going to have a good business if you're intoxicated. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Good CEOs, they don't make good decisions when their brains aren't healthy. Right. So healthy brain, clear mind, connected relationships, purpose. So when we have our treatment center, it's really going to be built on those 4 circles. Biology, got to get your brain right. So we'll have things like hyperbaric oxygen.
That's great.
No, you wanted to do that.
I did 40 after we got together, and man, I slept better. I was more positive. I didn't have depression like I had been cycling in and out of. And it really helped. I should look into doing 40 more treatments of that for sure.
It will help. And then become masterful at killing the ants. Mm-hmm. Work on your relationships. And the most important one is your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Are you being firm and kind, and then staying in your purpose? You survived that suicide because God wanted you to. And you have things to do. And you can only do them. You can only be a good CEO if you have a clear mind.
Right. For me, I really am going into this time, this treatment, this opportunity to, I guess, break that chain of pain, to really grasp hold of freedom, to seek true, lasting freedom, not 9 months of it, or not 6 months of it. Or there was one time I had more than 4 years sober. And I guess the hard thing is that, getting out of treatment, August 15th, and then spiraling again, and then having a few things, I think I broke my own trust, and I just, not whenever I'm healthy and doing the right things and taking care of myself and helping others. But whenever I do relapse, it's like it truly breaks my own trust, not just other people's trust, but mine. And I get mad at myself and feel guilty. And I think I just got to look at it as that diagram, that graph, and just see, you know what, these were some some setbacks for sure, but it's really a setup for a stronger comeback. And
Curious, not furious.
yeah, be curious, not furious. That's great.
That you're on a journey to be a detective of what are the triggers and how am I going to protect myself from them. When you beat yourself up, it just doesn't help.
Yeah.
And I want us to, let's just be helpful.
Yeah.
And yes, you shouldn't use because it doesn't get you what you want. But when you do, is that there's been did you ever read The Power of Now?
Yes. Yes.
So Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of The Power of Now. There was another book about sleep types. That was The Power of Now, I think, or something similar.
No, this one by Eckhart Tolle.
Maybe I'll take that with me.
Really good. And he talks about the pain body.
Okay.
And we all live with a pain body, right? When I was little, my older brother beat me up all the time. And my dad was mostly absent and sort of an ass. And that lives inside of me. And sometimes just by a look from someone else or a comment or a social media post, all of a sudden it'll hurt. And I'm like, oh, the pain body just got triggered. And you have a pain body that in therapy needs to be soothed, needs to be understood, and it'll help. And so love does not give you the excuse to use drugs, right? Yeah. When you love a child, there are consequences to bad behavior.
Yeah.
My niece, who I love, who I adopted, she didn't come home till 3 a.m. and lied about where she was. And, and I understood it, and I didn't beat her and didn't scream at her, but I grounded her for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, no. There are consequences to negative behavior, but they're not abusive consequences to negative behavior, right?
Right.
So I want you to love yourself in a firm, kind way while we're repairing your brain, because you were a fighter for a long time.
Yes, sir. Well, if we've got a few minutes, and if whether it's for me or someone that might be in my position right now where maybe they have always denied themselves going to get help, or maybe they're considering going to treatment, or maybe they're considering to come see you to figure out what's going on in their brain and being able to see it instead of going to maybe a psychiatrist that might be more throwing poison tipped darts in the dark, hoping to hit a bullseye. But being able to actually look at the brain and things like that. What would you say to someone that's thinking about asking for help and, or me going to treatment? I know that's really broad, but what would be some closing things you'd like to say?
It's the strong person who asks for help, not the weak person. I actually, when I told my dad I wanted to be a psychiatrist, he asked me why I didn't want to be a real doctor, why I wanted to be a nut doctor and hang out with nuts all day long. And that's the mindset too many people have, that if a business was having trouble and the owners denied it, they could go out of business, right? I mean, it could become bankrupt. If you're having a problem like you're having and you admit it, well, what smart people do is they hire the most effective consultants they can, and they pay attention. And so by you going, okay, this is a problem, I want to solve this problem, I'm going to go to a great treatment center and I'm going to work on it. That is a sign of intelligence. That is a sign of love. And that is a sign of somebody who wants to live an effective life. It's not a sign of shame. It's not a sign of weakness. Denying that you have a problem, that's dumb. Mm-hmm. This is smart.
Oh, thank you. And you just reminded me, it's addiction has been, you kind of shared well, for me, I've been able to do a few great things where, I was able to be a state champion, All-American national champion wrestler, a fighter, a author before I'm 30 and have a a TEDx talk in London and stuff. And it's like, I can do all this stuff, but for the addiction, I never sought help, counseling, coaching, to look at it as like I've sought coaching out from some of the best in the world. And I'm so grateful that I was able to seek out coaching from who I think might be the very best in the world in you when it comes to mental health. And so, yeah, that's just such a big encouragement. I'm going here to be coached up. Thank you for helping coach me today. And I want you to know I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to have an intro and outro pointing people to where they can get your books, come visit your clinic, whether it's Atlanta, New York, LA, Dallas, and some of the others. And I'm really looking forward to your treatment facility. If they ever need a guest speaker, once I'm sober, once I'm doing everything right, I would love to go in there and share or Zoom in or whatever and just give my time to the people that you're continuing to help, because you've helped me so much. So thank you so much, Dr. Amen.
Well, Justin, thank you. I love you back. Sharing, what does Tana say? Pain shared is pain divided. And
pain shared is pain divided. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And it just adds to the purpose that you have of helping forgotten people. So, all right, my friend, I got to run.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Amen. My doctor, my therapist, he just got off the Zoom call with me, and I'm so grateful for the man that he is, his gentle, wise, loving, compassionate heart, and for him being there for me in my greatest times of need. So I got a lot out of this. Strong people ask for help. One of the hardest things I've done in my life is ask for help with this greatest challenge that I've been dealt, whether it's depression that leads to addiction or addiction that leads to depression or just that cycle. And, it's quick. I'm pretty quick to ask for help whenever it comes to, hey, teach me this, whenever I'm with a coach in boxing or jiu-jitsu, or whenever I'm doing whatever it is, or wanting to learn how to do a good podcast. I can reach out to some of the best in the world and ask how to do this, how to do that. And so grateful for Pi helping me, Amy helping me. But I think what I want to wrap up on is whoever is listening to this now, if you're in a place where you need help, please ask for it. Whoever it is in your life, or if you feel like you don't really have many, find a therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, find a life coach, find someone that you vibe with, that you connect heart to heart, like-minded, that they'll be there for you. I think people want to help when you ask for help. I know that whenever someone asks me for help, I normally spring into action if I can, and if it makes sense, if it's healthy for me, I want to help them be healthier. And so you can see that exemplified in Dr. Daniel Amen today. His website is amenclinics.com. He is one of the most prolific psychiatrists of all of history. And so please give his website a check and check out his books. Change Your Brain, Change Your Life is a great one. He also just sent me recently a signed copy of Your Brain is Always Listening, I think is what it's called. I'm making sure about that. Yes, Your Brain is Always Listening. He's got another one, Healing ADD, End Mental Illness. And I just want to thank Dr. Daniel Amen for his time today. If you have the resources available, there's an incredible spec scan. And it's in the thousands. I think it's, anyways, it's not cheap for most, but it wasn't for me. And it was one of the biggest gifts I've been given, because I really think that it helped me whenever I was going through this next relapse, understanding like there's stuff going on in my brain. I can see it. He sees it. He showed it to me. And now I got to protect it. I got to take care of it. And when I slip up into these relapses, that's not what I'm doing. And so I'm really excited. I think going into treatment, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to go deep, and I'm really going to be introspective, ask a lot of questions, also try to be like a sponge with those therapists and counselors and recovery advocates and the clinical director there. And I think I'm just going to really try to go in there and treat it like a healthy fight camp where I'm not beating myself down, but I'm trying to build my body back up while I'm in there so that I'm prepared for the fight when I get out of there. Some fighters beat their bodies down in strength and conditioning even. I mean, you're beating your body down in boxing and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Like when you go to strength and conditioning, don't beat your body down because then you're going to get hurt. Build your body back up. And so I'm trying to build myself back up whenever I'm going here. And so when I get out, I'll be better, stronger, and able to be the man that I truly hope and believe I can be. Know I can be. So this might have been a heavy episode for some, maybe not. Maybe just heavy for me. But this time has been challenging, and I'm really, there's still obviously like regret, remorse, all that stuff, but there's been something rising up in me that says it's time to overcome this. And if I'm actually going to do it and I'm actually going to talk about it with you guys, I got to get ahead of it. I mean, if not ahead of it, but I want to learn from the past and then see those tendencies that took me to this relapse this last time. And maybe the next time stuff starts creeping up, I can cut it off before the relapse happens. I believe I can. I've done it before. I've done it many times, but there's been, I think relapse might just be part of recovery in some instances. Where that's where you learn the most until you actually get it. And I feel like I'm right around the corner from actually getting it. So that feels good. Thank you so much, Dr. Amen. I love and appreciate you. And we would still love to hear from you guys. And don't forget to like or subscribe, rate, review for Overcome. That helps this podcast. And if you know anyone struggling with addiction, please send this to him. Dr. Amen's a wise sage, and he's one of the best psychiatrists in the world. And hopefully this can help your friend or help you. Thank you so much. This is going to be quite a journey. I think we're going to have regular podcasts still coming out, but if we miss a few, it's because I'm taking care of myself. And when I come out, I know I'm going to be healthier than before. Thank you so much for listening. Much love, many blessings. Thank you.
Hey, don't forget to send your Overcome stories to overcomepodcast@gmail.com. And also rate, review, subscribe, and follow Overcome with Justin Wren.